Ladies and gentlemen, let's imagine for a moment that life is a mountain. Some days the climb feels effortless, as if the wind is carrying you upward. But other days, it feels like the weight of your fears, doubts, and struggles might pull you off the edge. Yet here's the truth: the climb is where we find our strength. We often think of strength as something solid and unshakable. But real strength, it's fluid. It shows up in our willingness to be vulnerable. Strength begins when we stop pretending we have it all together and admit, this climb is hard. It takes courage to say, I'm struggling, and even more courage to keep going. When we hear the word vulnerability, our first instinct might be to cringe, to shield ourselves, to run from it. We've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is a weakness, a crack in the armor that exposes us to harm or judgment. But the truth is, vulnerability is not a weakness, it is the purest form of strength. It is the willingness to show up, be seen, and embrace life, even when there are no guarantees of success or acceptance. Think about it: when have you felt the most courageous in your life? It likely wasn't in moments of certainty or comfort, but in those raw, unfiltered moments when you stepped into the unknown. Maybe it was the time you admitted you needed help, or when you risked rejection by saying, I love you, or perhaps it was when you took a leap of faith into a new job, a big move, or a personal transformation. In each of those moments, vulnerability was the price of entry. Vulnerability requires us to take off the mask we wear every day, the one that says, I'm fine, when we're not. It means dropping the facade of perfection and letting people see us as we truly are. That might sound terrifying, but it's also liberating. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give ourselves permission to be human. And in that humanity lies a power that's often overlooked: the power to connect, to grow, and to lead an authentic life. There's a paradox at the heart of vulnerability. It feels like a risk, but it's actually a source of security. Think about relationships, whether with friends, family, or romantic partners. True intimacy isn't built on pretending everything is perfect. It's built on the moments when we admit our fears, share our dreams, and expose our wounds. Vulnerability invites others to do the same, creating a foundation of trust and connection that can withstand the challenges of life. But if vulnerability is so essential to strength, why do we resist it? For many of us, the answer lies in fear. We fear being judged, rejected, or hurt. We fear that if we show our true selves, people will see our flaws and walk away. And let's be honest, sometimes they do. Vulnerability doesn't come with a guarantee of acceptance. But here's the thing: it's not about how others respond, it's about how we choose to show up. When we embrace vulnerability, we reclaim our power. Instead of letting fear dictate our actions, we lean into the discomfort and find courage on the other side. We discover that strength isn't about never falling, it's about having the courage to stand up again and again. Consider the people you admire most. Chances are they're not the ones who seem invincible or untouchable. They're the ones who are honest about their struggles, who share their stories of failure and triumph with humility and grace. Their vulnerability doesn't diminish their strength, it amplifies it. It makes them relatable, inspiring, and real. In our professional lives, vulnerability is often misunderstood as a liability. We're told to project confidence, to hide our doubts, to fake it till we make it, but the best leaders are those who embrace vulnerability as a tool for growth. They're the ones who say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. They create environments where others feel safe to speak up, share ideas, and take risks without fear of judgment. In doing so, they foster innovation, collaboration, and resilience. The same principle applies to personal growth. When we avoid vulnerability, we stay stuck in our comfort zones, unwilling to take the risks that lead to transformation. But when we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves to new experiences, new perspectives, and new possibilities. It's not easy. There will be moments of doubt, failure, and pain. But there will also be moments of profound joy, connection, and discovery. Vulnerability teaches us that strength isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance, it's about showing up even when the outcome is uncertain, it's about having the courage to say, this is who I am, and trusting that who we are is enough. In a world that often celebrates invulnerability, never let them see you sweat. Keep your emotions in check. Be tough. Choosing vulnerability is a radical act. It's a declaration that strength doesn't come from building walls, but from tearing them down. It's a reminder that we don't have to go through life alone, pretending we have it all together. Vulnerability also teaches us the importance of self-compassion. When we're vulnerable, we expose not only our strengths, but also our imperfections. And in those moments, we have a choice to judge ourselves harshly or to extend kindness to ourselves. Self-compassion isn't about excusing our mistakes or weaknesses. It's about recognizing that we are all works in progress, deserving of patience and grace. One of the most profound lessons of vulnerability is that it allows us to experience life in its fullness. It opens the door to love, creativity, and connection, but it also exposes us to pain, loss, and disappointment. Yet without vulnerability, we can't fully experience joy, because joy requires us to risk our hearts. It requires us to let go of control and embrace the beauty of the unknown. The journey to embracing vulnerability isn't a straight path. It's a process, one that requires intention and practice. It starts with small steps: speaking up in a meeting, reaching out to a friend, sharing a part of your story. Each act of vulnerability builds a foundation of courage, and over time, that courage becomes second nature. Resilience is often portrayed as a solitary strength, the ability to stand tall, to weather life's storms alone, to dig deep and find the strength within ourselves to keep going. While there is truth in the notion that resilience begins within, the idea that it flourishes in isolation is a myth. The truth is, resilience thrives in connection. It is in our relationships with family, friends, colleagues, communities that we find the support, perspective, and encouragement we need to endure and grow. To understand why connection is so foundational to resilience, consider this: humans are wired for connection. It's in our biology. From the moment where we're born, we seek out relationships. A newborn instinctively reaches for the comfort of a caregiver's touch. As we grow, we look to others for guidance, companionship, and love. Our need for connection doesn't diminish with age. If anything, it deepens. In times of struggle, that need becomes even more critical. Connection offers us something profound: the knowledge that we are not alone. This in itself is a powerful antidote to despair. When life feels overwhelming, knowing there is someone who sees us, hears us, and values us can make all the difference. It reminds us that our struggles, while unique to us, are also part of the shared human experience. One of the greatest gifts connection provides is perspective. When we're in the thick of a challenge, it's easy to feel consumed by it, as if the weight of the world rests solely on our shoulders. But when we open ourselves to others, whether by sharing our story or simply allowing them to be present with us, we begin to see our struggles in a new light. Friends and loved ones can offer insights we might not have considered or remind us of the strengths we already possess. Sometimes their role isn't to provide answers, but simply to sit with us in our pain, creating a space where we feel safe to process and heal. This safety is a hallmark of connection. True connection isn't about surface-level interactions or casual acquaintances. It's about relationships built on trust, vulnerability, and mutual respect. These are the relationships where we can show up as our authentic selves, messy, imperfect, and all, and still feel accepted. And it's in these spaces of acceptance that resilience begins to grow. The link between connection and resilience becomes even more evident when we look at how communities respond to adversity. In the aftermath of natural disasters, for example, it's often the strength of community bonds that determines how well people recover. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers coming together to rebuild, it's this collective effort that transforms hardship into hope. The same principle applies on an individual level. The stronger our connections, the more resources we have to draw upon in times of need. Connection also plays a vital role in how we perceive and respond to challenges. When we face adversity alone, it can feel insurmountable. But when we face it with the support of others, our perspective shifts. A problem shared often feels less daunting, not because the problem itself has changed, but because we're no longer carrying it alone. This shared burden lightens our emotional load and strengthens our capacity to endure. In professional settings, connection is equally critical. The most resilient teams are those built on trust and collaboration. When team members feel connected to one another, they're more likely to support each other through setbacks and challenges. They communicate openly, share ideas, and problem solve together. This sense of connection fosters not only resilience, but also creativity and innovation, enabling teams to navigate adversity with greater agility and confidence. And At its core, connection is about mutual giving and receiving. It's about recognizing that we all have something to offer, whether it's a listening ear, a word of encouragement, or a helping hand. And it's about being open to receiving those same gifts from others. This exchange creates a ripple effect. When we show up for others, we inspire them to show up for us. And together we create a network of support that sustains us all. But connection doesn't just happen, it requires effort and intention. In our fast-paced digital world, it's easy to mistake online interactions for genuine connection. While technology can certainly help us stay in touch, true connection requires more than a text message or a social media like. It requires presence. It means carving out time to be with the people who matter to us, whether that's through a heartfelt conversation, a shared meal, or simply sitting together in silence. One of the most powerful aspects of connection is its ability to transform loneliness. Loneliness, as research shows, is one of the greatest threats to resilience. It isolates us, makes us feel as though our struggles are unique and insurmountable, and erodes our sense of self-worth. But connection counters loneliness. It reminds us that we are part of something bigger than ourselves, that we are valued, and that our presence matters. Connection also strengthens resilience by helping us cultivate empathy. When we take the time to truly listen to others, to hear their stories, understand their experiences, and walk alongside them in their struggles, we deepen our capacity for compassion. This compassion, in turn, nurtures our own resilience. It reminds us that everyone faces challenges and that we are not alone in our journey. Of course, building and maintaining meaningful connections isn't always easy. It requires vulnerability, the willingness to let others see our struggles, and to admit when we need help. It also requires forgiveness, both of others and of ourselves, as no relationship is without its flaws. But the effort is worth it, because the connections we nurture become our lifelines in times of need. Failure is an inevitable part of the human experience. At some point, we all stumble, make mistakes, or fall short of our goals. Yet society often treats failure as something to be feared or avoided, a sign of weakness, inadequacy, or incompetence. This mindset can trap us, making failure feel like an insurmountable wall blocking our path. But in reality, failure is not the end. It's a stepping stone, a necessary part of growth and progress. How we perceive and respond to failure determines whether it holds us back or propels us forward. Failure at its core is feedback. It's life's way of showing us what doesn't work so we can figure out what does. Each mistake carries a lesson, a hidden gem of wisdom waiting to be uncovered. The most successful people in the world, from scientists to artists to entrepreneurs, have embraced failure as a teacher. They've learned to examine their missteps, extract the lessons, and use those lessons to refine their approach. Consider Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This mindset was critical to his eventual success in inventing the light bulb. Each failure wasn't a barrier, it was a step closer to discovery. Edison understood that failure isn't a detour from the path to success, it's part of the path itself. But failure is more than just a tool for learning. It's also an opportunity to build resilience. Resilience doesn't come from avoiding hardship, it's forged in the fire of adversity. When we face failure head on, we develop the grit and determination needed to keep moving forward. Every time we pick ourselves up after a setback, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of enduring, adapting, and growing stronger. One of the biggest barriers to embracing failure as a stepping stone is fear of judgment, fear of disappointment, fear of the unknown. This fear often stems from the way we've been conditioned to view failure. From a young age, many of us are taught to strive for perfection and to avoid mistakes at all costs. In school, a failing grade feels like a mark of shame. In the workplace, a missed target can feel like a career-ending event. Over time, we begin to associate failure with inadequacy, and we do everything we can to avoid it. But avoiding failure means avoiding risk, and avoiding risk means staying in our comfort zones. Growth, by definition, requires us to stretch beyond what's comfortable or familiar. It demands that we take chances, try new things, and venture into the unknown. And in doing so, we will inevitably encounter failure. The key is to reframe our relationship with it, to see failure not as something to fear, but as a natural and valuable part of the process. One way to reframe failure is to view it as evidence that we're trying. If we never fail, it likely means we're not pushing ourselves hard enough. Failure is proof that we're stepping into the arena, taking risks, and putting ourselves out there. It's a sign that we're alive, engaged, and striving for something greater. Failure also has a way of clarifying what truly matters. When we fail, it forces us to take a step back, reassess our priorities, and decide what's worth fighting for. It's in these moments of reflection that we often gain the clarity and focus needed to move forward with renewed purpose. Another powerful aspect of failure is its ability to foster empathy and connection. When we share our failures with others, we create a space for vulnerability and authenticity. We show that it's okay to be imperfect, that struggles are a universal part of the human experience. This honesty can strengthen relationships, build trust, and inspire others to embrace their own challenges. Failure also teaches us humility. It reminds us that we don't have all the answers and that we're not always in control. This humility can be a gift, keeping us grounded and open to learning from others. It allows us to approach life with curiosity and a willingness to grow rather than a rigid need to be right or perfect. But none of this happens automatically. To turn failure into a stepping stone, we must approach it with intention. The first step is to shift our mindset. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we can ask, "What can I learn from this?" This subtle shift transforms failure from a source of frustration into an opportunity for growth. The next step is to embrace the discomfort that comes with failure. It's natural to feel disappointed, frustrated, or even embarrassed when we fall short. But instead of suppressing these emotions, we can allow ourselves to feel them fully. Acknowledging and processing these feelings is an essential part of healing and moving forward. From there, we can begin to analyze our failures. What went wrong? What could we have done differently? Were there factors outside our control? This process of reflection helps us extract the lessons hidden within the experience. And those lessons become the foundation for our next steps. Finally, we must give ourselves permission to try again. Failure can leave us feeling hesitant or uncertain, but resilience is built through action. Each time we take another step forward, we're proving to ourselves that failure doesn't define us. It's just one chapter in a much larger story. In many ways, failure is a mirror. It reflects our values, our priorities, and our deepest desires. It challenges us to confront our fears and insecurities, and it pushes us to grow in ways we never imagined. By stepping into this mirror and facing what we see, we transform failure from a wall into a stepping stone, a bridge to the life we're meant to live. In a world that constantly encourages us to conform, to fit in, to meet expectations that aren't always our own, choosing authenticity can feel like a radical act. Yet authenticity is one of the most powerful tools we possess. It's not just about being genuine, it's about being fully yourself, embracing your unique story, your values, and your imperfections without apology. When you live authentically, you tap into a strength that goes beyond appearances or accomplishments. You unlock a power that allows you to connect deeply with others, lead with courage, and create a life that truly aligns with who you are. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. To live authentically, you first have to know yourself. This means digging beneath the surface and getting honest about what you truly value, what you believe in, and what makes you come alive. It's not always easy, especially in a culture that bombards us with messages about who we're supposed to be. Social media advertisements and societal norms often pressure us to present a curated version of ourselves, one that's polished, likable, and free of flaws. But authenticity isn't about perfection. It's about embracing your humanity in all its messiness and beauty. When you embrace your authenticity, you give yourself permission to show up as you are. This doesn't mean you stop growing or improving, but it does mean you stop pretending. You stop trying to mold yourself into someone else's idea of success or happiness. Instead, you listen to your own inner voice and make choices that reflect your true self. This can be incredibly liberating because the energy you once spent trying to fit in can now be directed toward living a life of meaning and purpose. One of the most profound aspects of authenticity is its ability to foster connection. When you're authentic, you invite others to see the real you, the unfiltered, unvarnished version. This can feel vulnerable, even scary, but it's also what creates genuine relationships. When people see your authenticity, they're more likely to trust you, to feel safe around you, and to open up themselves. Authenticity breaks down walls and builds bridges. It reminds us that we don't have to go through life alone, pretending we have it all together. Think about the people you're drawn to, the ones who make you feel at ease, inspired, or seen. Chances are they're authentic. They don't hide behind masks or try to be someone they're not. Instead, they embrace their uniqueness, and in doing so, they give you permission to do the same. Authenticity is contagious. When you show up as your true self, you encourage others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of honesty and connection. Authenticity is also a powerful antidote to the fear of judgment. When you live authentically, you accept that not everyone will like you, and that's okay. You realize that being true to yourself is more important than winning the approval of others. This doesn't mean you're indifferent to people's opinions. It means you're no longer controlled by them. You prioritize self-respect over external validation, and this shift allows you to move through life with greater confidence and freedom. But authenticity isn't just about how you present yourself to the world, it's also about how you lead. Authentic leaders are some of the most impactful and inspiring people in any field. Why? Because they lead with integrity. They don't try to be all things to all people. Instead, they stay true to their values and create environments where others feel empowered to do the same. Authentic leaders foster trust, loyalty, and collaboration because people know they're genuine. They don't just talk about honesty, empathy, or courage, they model it. Authenticity also plays a crucial role in resilience. When you're authentic, you build a foundation of inner strength that helps you navigate life's challenges. You're not pretending to be someone you're not or living a life that doesn't feel like your own. This alignment between your values and your actions gives you clarity and focus, even in difficult times. When setbacks happen, you're more likely to bounce back because you're rooted in a sense of purpose and self-belief that can't be shaken by external circumstances. Of course, living authentically isn't always easy. It requires courage to face your fears, to risk rejection, and to stand firm in your truth. It means saying no to opportunities that don't align with your values, even if they seem appealing on the surface. It means being honest about your needs, even when it feels uncomfortable. And it means being willing to grow and change as you discover more about yourself. Authenticity also requires vulnerability. To be authentic, you have to be willing to show your imperfections, to admit when you're wrong, and to let others see the parts of you that you might otherwise want to hide. This vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength. It's what allows you to build deeper connections, to learn from your experiences, and to live a life that feels true to who you are. At times, living authentically may lead to criticism or misunderstanding. Not everyone will appreciate your honesty or agree with your choices. But the beauty of authenticity is that it frees you from the need to please everyone. When you live authentically, you're no longer trying to fit into someone else's mold. You're creating your own path, one that reflects your unique voice, passions, and values. Authenticity is also a source of creativity and innovation. When you embrace your individuality, you unlock ideas and perspectives that others might not see. You're not bound by conventional thinking or afraid to challenge the status quo. Instead, you bring your full self to the table, offering insights and solutions that only you can provide. This willingness to think differently, to take risks, and to trust your instincts is what drives progress, not just in your own life, but in the world around you. Living authentically is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of self-discovery, growth, and alignment. Some days it might feel effortless, other days it might feel like an uphill battle. But each time you choose authenticity, each time you show up as your true self, you're exercising a superpower that has the potential to transform your life and the lives of those around you. In a results-driven world, success is often defined by the peaks we reach, the awards we win, the promotions we earn, the milestones we achieve. While these moments of triumph are worth celebrating, they're only a fraction of the story. Behind every peak is a process, the long hours of effort, the small wins that kept us going, and the lessons learned along the way. When we focus only on the destination, we risk overlooking the richness of the journey. To truly thrive, we must learn to celebrate the process, not just the peak. The process is where the real growth happens. Achievements may define moments in time, but it's the process that shapes who we are. It's during the climb, when things are messy, uncertain, and challenging, that we discover our strengths, confront our fears, and refine our skills. The process forces us to stretch beyond our comfort zones, to persevere through setbacks, and to find joy in the simple act of trying. Each step, no matter how small, contributes to the person we're becoming. Yet, it's easy to dismiss the process when our eyes are fixed solely on the summit. Society glorifies outcomes, and we're often conditioned to believe that the only thing that matters is crossing the finish line. This mindset can rob us of the satisfaction and pride that come from the journey itself. When we delay our celebration until we've reached a specific goal, we miss the opportunity to acknowledge the progress we've already made. Take, for example, the experience of running a marathon. While crossing the finish line is a monumental achievement, the real story lies in the months of preparation leading up to that moment. It's in the early morning runs, the incremental improvements in stamina, and the decision to keep going even when it's hard. By celebrating these milestones, the first time you run a mile without stopping, the first week you stick to your training plan, you cultivate a sense of accomplishment and motivation that sustains you throughout the journey. The process is also where we build resilience. Life is rarely a straight path, and the pursuit of any meaningful goal is bound to include detours, setbacks, and moments of doubt. When we focus only on the peak, these obstacles can feel like failures. But when we learn to celebrate the process, we see them for what they truly are: opportunities to grow, adapt, and strengthen our resolve. Each challenge overcome adds to our story and deepens our appreciation for the journey. Celebrating the process also teaches us to find joy in the present moment. So often we tie our happiness to future achievements, telling ourselves, I'll be happy when I get that job, when I lose those 10 pounds, when I achieve this or that goal. But this mindset keeps us in a perpetual state of chasing, always looking ahead instead of appreciating where we are now. When we celebrate the process, we shift our focus from the future to the present. We find joy in the act of learning, creating, and growing, rather than waiting for some distant reward. In addition to fostering joy, celebrating the process helps us cultivate gratitude. It reminds us to acknowledge the people, experiences, and resources that support us along the way. No journey is ever truly a solo endeavor. Whether it's a mentor who offers guidance, a friend who provides encouragement, or even the failures that teach us valuable lessons, the process is filled with gifts that deserve recognition. By taking the time to celebrate these moments, we not only deepen our appreciation for the journey, but also strengthen the connections that sustain us. Another benefit of celebrating the process is that it keeps us motivated. Peaks are often far off, and the road to reaching them can feel long and daunting. If we wait until we achieve a major milestone to acknowledge our progress, we risk losing steam along the way. Celebrating small victories, the incremental steps that bring us closer to our goal, gives us the energy and momentum to keep going. Each mini celebration is a reminder that we're moving in the right direction, even if the summit is still out of sight. It's also important to recognize that the process is often more transformative than the peak itself. Achieving a goal may bring a moment of elation, but it's the process that leaves a lasting impact. The skills we develop, the habits we form, and the self-discovery we experience during the climb stay with us long after the peak has been reached. By celebrating the process, we honor the journey as its own reward, independent of the outcome. The process also allows us to redefine success. When we focus solely on the peak, we run the risk of equating our worth with our achievements. But when we celebrate the process, we learn to value effort over results and persistence over perfection. This mindset frees us from the pressure to always win and allows us to find fulfillment in simply showing up and giving our best. Finally, celebrating the process cultivates a sense of curiosity and wonder. When we're not solely fixated on the outcome, we open ourselves to the unexpected joys and discoveries that the journey can bring. We become more attuned to the small, meaningful moments of breakthrough idea, an unexpected act of kindness, or a quiet moment of reflection that might otherwise go unnoticed. These moments enrich our experience and remind us that the climb itself is worth cherishing. Life is not just about reaching the peaks, it's about embracing every step of the climb. Vulnerability opens the door to strength. Connection lays the foundation for resilience. Failure transforms into a stepping stone. Authenticity becomes our greatest superpower, and the process itself deserves celebration. These principles remind us that growth is not linear and success is not confined to moments of achievement. It's woven into the courage, persistence, and honesty we bring to every part of the journey. When we honor the lessons learned in struggle, the relationships that sustain us, and the beauty of showing up as our true selves, we realize that each step, no matter how small or imperfect, holds value. The climb shapes us into who we are meant to be, and when we choose to see its worth, we find strength, purpose, and meaning in every moment of the ascent.